Back to the glorious Soviet future today on the world. I'm Marco Werman. Back in 1960, Soviet artists imagined life in 2017. It included underground cities and the triumph of socialism.
Everything's good outside and everything's good here in the home, which is the way we would think. It's, that reminder that the Soviets love their children too, right? I can't believe I just quoted Sting.
Plus, for the first time in decades, Cuba begins legally exporting a product to the U.S.
Charcoal that's prized around the world and has been sold in Europe for years.
And a zookeeper who's always looked after animals.
There were no lakes or ponds from my grandmother's ducks. So what does a good child do? Digs a big hole, fills it up with water.
That's all coming up today on The World. We are monitoring a developing story out of Florida, a shooting at a baggage claim area inside the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. Reports say a number of people were killed. We'll be following the still unfolding story and posting the latest updates over at PRI.org. Right now, we begin the show with a look at one of the many ways that Donald Trump has been breaking with what we expect from a president-elect. His transition team has instructed all politically appointed U.S. ambassadors to resign effective January 20th. No exceptions. Nick Burns was Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs from March 2005 until February of 2008. He's now at Harvard's Kennedy School. So does this mean, Nick, that all these diplomats are going to have to have vacated their overseas posts by January 20th, Inauguration Day?
That appears to be the case. The new president, in this case President Trump, has every right to have his own ambassadors. But this particular Trump transition edict strikes me as peremptory and I think a little bit unwise, because there may be places where the issues are so important to the United States, we need an ambassador in such a place as NATO, where given Putin's pressure on the Baltic states, his actions in Ukraine, you'd want to have an ambassador. Our current ambassador is politically appointed, but he's a former general, General Doug Lute. He's been serving there with great distinction. He's very bipartisan. He worked for the Bush as well as Obama administration. So there is a place where you might want to have an exception. China would be another place. Egypt would be a third place. So you can think of embassies around the world where you really do want to have an ambassador in place until the next ambassador of the president can come in.
Right, establish that little grace period. So, the operative words are politically appointed ambassadors. What percentage of ambassadors are politically appointed right now, and did they have to follow a confirmation process?
All ambassadors, whether they're politically appointed or career ambassadors, I was a career ambassador, are confirmed by the Senate. You have to go through this process. Since the Kennedy administration, 55 years ago, about 70% of our ambassadors around the world have been career ambassadors, professional ambassadors, and about 30% have been political appointees. A large percentage of those political appointees are in some of the advanced democracies in the world, say in Western Europe. And so I do think that President Trump has a right to his own appointees, but the problem we have in Washington is that the confirmation process for new ambassadors is exceptionally slow. And so if you ask your ambassador to leave NATO on January 20th, you might not get his replacement there until August or September or even a year later if the appointment is controversial or held up by any number of senators. So I think you want to have some flexibility here. And when the Trump transition announced no exceptions, I don't think that's smart. I think they'd be much better served going through these political appointee ambassadorships and deciding where do we need someone in place. Beijing, yes. NATO, yes. Let's leave that person. And Marco, I can tell you, I was an ambassador in the field for both President Clinton as well as President George W. Bush. Your instincts as an ambassador are you're serving the president, you're serving the American people. Your instincts are to be nonpartisan. And I think that these are good, patriotic people. These are Obama appointees. I think they can be trusted by the Trump administration to represent them well until the new Trump appointees are in place.
So are we looking potentially at a lot of embassies without ambassadors for a long time, months, maybe even years?
Oh, we are. We're looking at 40 to 50 ambassadorships, perhaps, that will be vacant. Now, these are very important jobs. We have ambassadors in war zones like Iraq and Afghanistan, in difficult places where terrorism is an issue like Pakistan. They represent Americans on everyday issues concerning visas, marriage certificates, birth certificates. It's very important. There's also a personal side to this, Marco. Some of our ambassadors in the field have kids in their last year of high school. Right. Or kids in school who need to finish the term. And it's quite often in both Republican and Democratic administrations that an outgoing ambassador would ask to stay in place for a couple of months so that their kids can finish school.